Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathsala. I am Amit Kumar Basant Rai from Central University of Himachal Pradesh. Today we are going to discuss on the module Revealed Preference Theory of Demand from paper Managerial Economics. After completing this module, the students will be able to answer how preference is derived from actual choices of the consumers. Students will be able to learn the assumptions of revealed preference theory of demand. They will be able to learn derivation of indifference curve from revealed preference theory. The difference between weak and strong axioms of revealed preference will also be known by the students. They would also lastly learn about the advantages and disadvantages of revealed preference theory. Paul Samuelson introduced the term revealed preference in the year 1938. So that was for the first time any economist gave this term to the economics literature and to the whole world. The theory of revealed preference is considered a very important theory of consumer behavior because it establishes law of demand without the use of indifference curves. This theory does not really assume the convexity of indifference curve, rather it establishes the existence and convexity of indifference curve. Prior to this theory, there was this assumption indifference curve would be having this convex shape, but it is the theory of revealed preference that for the first time gave the proof or gave the reason as to why indifference curve would be having convex shape. Economics in general and consumer theory in particular deals with two types of preferences. One is called stated preferences and the other one is called revealed preference. The kind of preference we take in the indifference curve analysis or the ordinal utility analysis is a stated preference. Consumer first states his preference and accordingly he or she demands the goods or demand various goods and services in the market. So in the Hicksian or indifference curve analysis, a consumer first states his preference and with the information of his or her budget we go on to determine his or her demand. But what if the consumer does not state his preference? There would be situations where the consumers would be reluctant to share their preferences. So in that case, where preferences are not directly given, an indirect process is used to know consumer preferences, and that is to derive the preference from the actual demand behavior of the consumers. In real life, every person demands some commodities or the other. Now, the main task in the situation where preferences are not directly observable is to know the preferences of the consumers from their actual demand behavior. You observe the consumer so far as his or her demand behaviors are concerned, then you extract the preferences based on the observation of their demand behavior. The theory of revealed preference does exactly this. In this theory, consumers' preferences are revealed from their demand behavior. Now, there are certain assumptions of this theory. If you want the demand theorem to be valid, or if you want to have a valid revealed preference theory of demand, you want to assume something that are called the assumptions of the theory of revealed preference. First assumption of this theory is that the consumer is a rational consumer, as he prefers those bundles of goods that contain more quantities of commodities. So, according to this theory, a consumer is a rational consumer because he prefers those bundles of commodities that contains more quantities of at least one commodity. Second assumptions of this theory is that the consumer behaves consistently with regard to his or her choices. Third, the consumer by choosing a particular bundle of good at a given budget reveals his preference for that particular bundle. The chosen bundle is revealed preferred to all other bundles available at that budget, and the basket of goods so chosen maximizes his or her utility. To get some more idea about the revel preference, take the case of the following example. Now, suppose there is a rational consumer who wants to maximize utility given his budget or income. Figure 1 is depicting the budget line and bundles of commodities that this consumer can afford. Now, you can see the figure 1. Along the x-axis, good X is taken, and along y-axis, good Y is taken. The line AB represents budget line of the consumer. All the commodity bundles that lie on the line AB, like you can see the point E, and below AB, like point F, are affordable to the consumer. But suppose he chooses bundle X1, Y1, represented by point E, over all other bundles that he could have chosen. That means bundle X1, Y1 or point E is optimal bundle for the consumer at the given budget defined by AB, which means it must be superior, that is point E or bundle X1, Y1 must be superior to other bundles on and below line AB. In this case, we say that the bundle X1, Y1 or point E that the consumer is choosing, and this point E that the consumer chooses is revealed preferred to any other bundle that was available to him at that budget. Or in other words, the available bundles that were not chosen are revealed worse than the demanded bundle. Now, you can infer something on preference from this revealed preference, or you can draw some conclusions about the preference of the consumer from this idea of revealed preference that we just discussed. Now let us try to infer something on the preference from the revealed preference. Now take this example. Consider a case where prices of X and Y, that is prices of good X and good Y, are P1 and P2 respectively. At this price, consumer chooses X1 Y1 bundle over X2 Y2, although X2 Y2 was affordable to him. In other words, he chooses X1 Y1 when P1 X1 plus P2 X2 is greater than equal to P1 X2 plus P2 Y2. That means the expenditure on the bundle X1 Y1 is greater than the expenditure on the bundle X2 Y2. Here, the consumer is choosing the most preferred affordable bundle, and we say X1 Y1 bundle is directly, and I repeat the word directly, revealed preferred to bundle X2 Y2 bundle, which further means that the consumer ranks this bundle X1 Y1 ahead of the bundle X2 Y2. Consider another case of some other prices of good X and Y at which the consumer had preferred X2 Y2 over X3 Y3 bundle. Since in our earlier example, X1 Y1 was preferred over X2 Y2 bundle, the consumer would prefer X1 Y1 to X3 Y3 by transitivity assumption. That is, if X1 Y1 bundle is directly preferred to X2 Y2 and X2 Y2 bundle is directly preferred to X3 Y3 bundle, then X1 Y1 would be indirectly preferred to X3 Y3. I repeat, X1 Y1 would be indirectly preferred to X3 Y3. Now, revealed preference includes both direct and indirect revealed preference. Or this concept of revealed preference includes both direct revealed preference and indirect revealed preference. Suppose there are two bundles X and Y. If X is either directly or indirectly revealed preferred to Y, we say that X is revealed preferred to Y. The inference of preference of a consumer from his or her choice is discussed through figure 2. Consider the initial budget line CD. At this budget line or at this income, the consumer has the option of choosing any bundle that lie on or below the line CD. Suppose the consumer prefers a bundle represented by X2, Y2. Now there happens a change in prices and the budget line shifts from CD to AB. Or there is an increase in price of X, and that is why the consumer's budget line now would be, at that budget the consumer would be able to buy less of good X and more of good Y. That is why the budget line is shifting from CD to AB. Here again, the consumer has the option of choosing any bundle that lies on or below the line AB. Suppose the consumer chooses bundle X1, Y1. Given these revealed preferences of consumer at different budget lines, we can conclude that the bundle X1, Y1 is preferred to all other bundles in the shaded area, either directly or indirectly. The shaded area represents where there are lines drawn below the line AB and also below the line CD. The inference that we can draw from this revealed preference is that the indifference curve for the consumer should not encroach upon the shaded area, or in other words, the indifference curve should lie above the shaded area. On these lines, we can observe different demand bundles of the consumer at different budget lines, and we can narrow in on the area through which his or her indifference curve would pass. We all are aware of the fact that under ordinal utility analysis, a lot of information like consumers' tastes and preferences, ranking of those preferences are needed from the consumer to draw indifference curve which represents various combinations of two goods resulting in a particular level of utility. The theory of revealed preference does not ask the consumer to give the information about his tastes and preferences. The theory enables us to draw indifference curve of the consumer by his behavior or choice for different bundles of commodities at various market prices, provided certain conditions are fulfilled, and these conditions are his choice is consistent, his tastes do not change frequently, and the consumer prefers more goods to less. We will now discuss how we derive indifference curve for a consumer from his revealed preference. Now focus on figure 3. Along the x-axis of figure 3 and y-axis of figure 3, we have taken good X and good Y respectively. Now let the initial budget line for the consumer is A, that is capital A is the starting point, small a is the ending point of that line, capital A, small a, which represents various combinations of good X and good Y that the consumer can purchase with his given income. With this budget line, let us further assume that the consumer chooses bundle E, which is on the line capital A, small a. If this is the case, then all the other combination of two goods X and Y on the line AA and below it denote inferior bundles to point E. Now, to know the bundles that are superior to point E, draw two perpendiculars through E like EF and EH, which is drawn through point E. So two perpendiculars we have drawn, EF is one and EH is the other one. EF is vertical, EH is horizontal. All the bundles that are on these two lines and in the area created by them towards the right of E are preferred to bundle E as they contain more quantities of at least one commodity. For example, on the perpendicular EF, all the points except E represents more quantities of good Y, quantity of good X remaining constant. Similarly, on the perpendicular EH, all the points except E represent more quantities of good X, quantity of good Y remaining constant, and in the area towards the right of E and between those perpendiculars EF and EH, all the points give more quantities of two goods. Bundles of goods in the area represented by FEA. You start from A, come to point E, then go to the capital A. And HE small a. You start from H, go to E and come to the point A, small a on the x-axis. These area like FEA and HEA are not still order, or we cannot conclusively say whether these are having superior or inferior bundles compared to point E. To do that, we need to observe the consumer more in different price situations, or we have to spend more time on the behavior of the consumers in different price situations. Let us assume that the price of X fall so that the new budget line, that is capital B small b, passes below E, below the point E which was on the original budget line AA. Now the consumer would choose either point U, that is on BB, or a point to the right of U. If he chooses any point on the segment BU, that is the segment to the left of point U or below it, then his choice would be inconsistent, as these bundles were revealed as inferior bundles when the budget line was capital A small a. Suppose the consumer chooses point U. Using the transitivity assumption, we can conclude the following. So the consumer in the new budget line situation chooses point U. Using the transitivity assumption, we can say the following. Point E was preferred to point U when budget line was AA. Point U is referred to area U small a small b when the new budget line is B small b. Therefore, point E would be preferred to area U small a small b when budget line is capital A small a. In this way, we have managed to reduce the earlier unranked area of capital H, capital E, small a by area U, capital U, small a, small b. Like this, if we observe the behavior of the consumer at different price situations, we can rank the remaining area of H, E and small a. We can also rank the other part of the area F, E, A, which was not ranked. The ranking of this area is explained through figure 4. Now, through figure 4, we want to rank the area represented by F, E, A. Capital F, capital E, capital A. Assume that the price of good X increases and that therefore the new budget line CC, capital C, small c, passes through point E. The consumer has the choice of either choosing bundle E or choose a point such as point V, which lies towards the left of point E and on the line CC. So that point V lies on the newly drawn budget line CC. Through rationality assumption, we can show that area MVN, that shaded area MVN, would be preferred to point V because on any point in that area there is at least more quantity of one commodity. There is this more quantities of at least one commodity, or maybe two commodities if you focus or if you pull out one point from the shaded area. Now, using transitivity assumption, we show that as point V is preferred to point E, MVN, that is area MVN, is preferred to point V. Area MVN is preferred to E. So area MVN is superior to E, hence the indifference curve which passes through E must not cross the area MVN. Repeating this procedure would eventually narrow down the earlier unranked zone, which would give us the exact path through which indifference curve would pass. With this, we have kind of successfully managed to derive the indifference curve, or with this narrowing down of lower unranked zone and upper unranked zone, we are now in a position to kind of derive the indifference curve from the revealed preference of the consumer, which was again from the actual behavior of the consumer in various market situations, or we would want to derive the indifference curve from the actual behavior of the consumer in market situations, and that is done in figure 5. Now look at figure 5. Figure 5 deals with derivation of indifference curve from revealed preference, and we have mentioned before that revealed preference theory does not assume the convexity of indifference curve but establishes convex nature. That is the beauty of revealed preference, and that is the difference of revealed preference compared to the indifference curve approach, that it actually establishes why, or gives us the reason why indifference curve is having this convex nature. It is quite evident from figure 5, which depicts various shapes of indifference curve, out of which indifference curve I1 is the derived indifference curve from consumer's revealed preference. All other indifferent curves like this concave indifference curve I2, this I3 which is cutting point E, and there is this straight line budget line which can be assumed as indifference curve, which the indifference curve can have that downward sloping straight line shape. All these other indifference curves I2, I3 and AA are deliberately drawn to show why these shapes would not be valid. First, take the case of the straight line indifference curve AA, and this shape is not valid as all other points, because all other points except E on AA are shown inferior in the previous section from the previous figures. So all other points except point E on AA were shown superior in our previous discussion. Now, the moment the indifference curve passes through the inferior zones, then a consumer would not be following the consistency assumption. Similarly, in the case of indifference curve I2 and indifference curve I3, some parts of each of these curves are crossing either the inferior zone, that is some parts of I2 is crossing the inferior zone, or both inferior and superior zones. In case of I2, all its points are in the inferior zone, but in the case of I3, indifference curve 3, some parts are in inferior zone, some parts are in superior zone. Therefore, we can safely reject these possible shapes of indifference curves like I2 is having, I1 and AA is having. We can reject these shapes, and we have just proved that why these shapes would not be consistent or would not be valid. Therefore, the only possible shape of indifference curve is convex to the origin, that is represented by indifference curve I1, and this, as all of you know, we have derived this indifference curve I1 from the revealed preference of the consumer. Now, there is this strong axiom of revealed preference. Whereas weak axiom is based upon the concept of direct revealed preference, the strong axiom is based upon the added concept of indirect revealed preference. As we already know, indirect revealed preference follows transitivity principles, that is, if bundle 1 is preferred to bundle 2 and bundle 2 is preferred to bundle 3, then bundle 1 is indirectly revealed preferred to bundle 3. For consumer's choice to be maximizing, we should not get a case where indirect revealed preference is violated or strong axiom of revealed preference is violated. What is the strong axiom of revealed preference then? If a bundle, strong axiom of revealed preference tells us that if a bundle x1 y1 is either directly or indirectly revealed preferred to another bundle x2 y2, and these two bundles are different from each other, there must not be a case where the bundle x2 y2 is either directly or indirectly referred to x1 y1 bundle. Just now we have discussed the concept of weak axiom of revealed preference. Now, whereas weak axiom of revealed preference is based upon the concept of direct revealed preference, the strong axiom which are now discussed is based upon the added concept of indirect revealed preference. So, strong axiom of revealed preference is a stricter assumption than the weak axiom. In the strong axiom, you add both direct revealed preference and indirect revealed preference. Now, indirect revealed preference follows transitivity principle, that is, if bundle 1 is preferred to bundle 2 and bundle 2 is preferred to bundle 3, then bundle 1 is indirectly revealed preferred to bundle 3. Now, the strong axiom of revealed preference talks of this thing only. If a bundle x1 y1 is either directly or indirectly revealed preferred to another bundle x2 y2 and these two bundles are different from each other, there must not be a case where the bundle x2 y2 is either directly or indirectly revealed preferred to x1 y1. There are various advantages of the theory of revealed preference over the previous two theories of demand, that is Marshallian theory of demand and the Hicksian theory of demand. In the Marshallian theory of demand, you took utility to be a cardinal concept. In the Hicksian theory of demand, you took utility as an ordinal concept. Now, revealed preference theory has some points which would be considered as its advantage points over the earlier two theories of demand. Revealed preference theory is the first theory to apply behavioristic method to demand theory, or in this theory, the theory of demand is explained through the actual behavior of the consumer. So, for the first time, this theory applied behavioristic model. From the behavior of the consumer, you kind of derived the demand theorem. You kind of explain the demand theorem. Both indifference curve and Marshallian cardinal utility analysis derive demand theorem on the basis of the ranking of different commodities bundles given by the consumer. Theory of revealed preference is not built upon utility maximization assumption but on the consistency assumption about the consumer behavior. The theory of revealed preference also abandons the assumption of continuity of indifference curve because of the fact that in real world there are situations in which you would find discontinuity. Now let us turn our attention to the disadvantages of the theory of revealed preference. Now, according to Samuelson, preference can be revealed from a single instance of choice by the consumer and hence there is no possibility of indifference in consumer's behavior. So, indifference in consumer's behavior means suppose there are 5 bundles of goods. Consumers, according to Paul Samuelson, consumer would be clearly choosing one among those five possible bundles of goods. But there may be this chance where a consumer may be indifferent, may not be able to choose clearly one particular bundle over other 4 bundles of commodities, and in that case there is this possibility of indifference in consumers' behavior. So, while it is very difficult to discard the possibility of indifference between commodity bundles, and particularly this would be the case when there would be sufficiently large number of observations, revealed preference theory did not take this case into account. The theory also fails to distinguish between substitution effect and income effect because of absence of indifference relation. From the ordinal utility analysis, you saw how price effect is decomposed into substitution and income effect. Now, ordinal utility analysis talks both of substitution and income effect. However, because the revealed preference theory is not taking into account the indifference relation, it fails to distinguish between substitution and income effect. Samuelson, in fact, had rejected the substitution effect that allows the movement along the same indifference curve. There is no place for the case of different bundles of goods with the same level of satisfaction. So you know from the Samuelson's writings that he has clearly discarded the possibility of indifference relationship. That is why this theory fails to distinguish between substitution and income effect. The reveal preference theory would be unable to explain demand theorem when income elasticity of demand is negative and it is smaller than the substitution effect. Similarly, the theory would be unable to explain demand theorem when income elasticity of demand is negative and it is smaller than the substitution effect. One other disadvantage of Samuelson theory is that it fails to solve Giffen's paradox. In another situation, reveal preference theory does not work, and that is when consumers start to deploy strategies consistent with the game theory. So when consumers employ the strategies of the game theory, this theory of reveal preference does not work. So students, let us summarize this module. The theory of reveal preference concludes that consumers' preferences are revealed from their demand behavior. Reveal preference includes both direct and indirect reveal preference. The validity of this whole exercise or validity of the reveal preference theory depends upon the fulfillment of both weak axiom and strong axiom of reveal preference. Weak axiom means if one bundle, say x1, y1, is directly reveal preferred to another bundle, say x2, y2, and these two bundles are not the same or are distinct from each other, then it cannot happen that x2, y2 is directly reveal preferred to x1, y1. Whereas strong axiom tells us that if a bundle x1, y1 is either directly or indirectly reveal preferred to another bundle x2, y2, and these two bundles are different from each other, there must not be a case where the bundle x2, y2 is either directly or indirectly reveal preferred to x1, y1 bundle. So reveal preference theory, in order for it to be valid, must satisfy both weak axiom and strong axiom.